doing very, very good work here in Uganda. Okay, James.
Thank you, Dr. Tony. The audience and our leaders here, protocol all observed. I'm honored to be here, first of all, as a young African, a young East African, and particularly a young Ugandan on this panel. Allow me first to speak as a young and visionary African by the words of Nelson Mandela. He said, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." I will repeat that. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children. We founded Teach for Uganda on a notion that we want to put our children first. Teach for Uganda is an innovative model of teaching as leadership. We believe that teaching is the most fundamental form of leadership. What do we do at Teach for Uganda? Who are we? We are a young and innovative organization that focuses on the youth of our country who are graduating from our universities and calling them to this calling of servant leadership. We ask them, come and join us who have had the opportunity of a quality education, to join us, to join hands into a 2-year teaching as leadership fellowship. We train them with a locally rooted contextual curriculum, but also globally minded. We partner with Teach for All, which is a global organization that comprises of 48 other organizations from Teach for Ghana, Nigeria, USA, UK, India, and others in Latin America, to ensure that our young leaders who are graduating from our universities, one, understand the contextual challenges of Uganda's education system, and then how do we prepare our children to not just compete in Uganda, but with their counterparts in China, in India, and abroad. And so the 3 key points that I would want to mention here when it comes to what we believe would really nurture creativity and character in our schools. What do we look at? We look at a teacher as a leader. And I want you, all you here, to think to yourself, who was your key teacher in school and what do you remember about them? And why did they make a difference in your life? It's because they were not just a teacher. They didn't just show up in school to teach. They also went ahead to be a parent. They also went ahead to be a mentor. They also went ahead to tell you about more opportunities that came. Myself, as a young man, I lost my entire family to AIDS when I was between the ages of 4 and 10 in rural Western Uganda. I was raised by a grandmother who was not formally literate. But I had a teacher in school, my science and math teacher, who told me that I can be anything that I ever wanted to be. Who also told me that if I focused on science and mathematics, that I actually could be better than what my community, the challenges that we are going through. And it is because of Master Amos that I actually graduated in a rural school in Katebe Primary School with a 7 distinctions in mathematics and science. So we believe that teachers are the fundamental leaders of our communities. So when we train our teachers, we tell them, one, we train them on community leadership. How do you mobilize parents, school management committees, head teachers, guardians of these children to really rally around their children first coming to school? Our brother from Chihua mentioned that they still have lots of children who are dropping out, right? So if a teacher cannot really think about how to mobilize parents, how to mobilize communities, how to mobilize others to bring the children first to school, how can children even have the character and the moral will and the grit to come to even class and stay in school? And we also believe that learning begins at home. So our teachers do home visits to ensure that they are talking to the parents that their children's education is important. Like our brother has said that their meal, having a meal to come to class is important. To ensure that being clean, being hygienic is important. So our teachers not just teach the 2 classes, mathematics and English, in class, but they also have home visits to their children where they come from. On top of that, in school, when the children are now able to come to school, when our teachers have made the campaigns to come to school, what do? They focus on learner-centered methodologies. What does that mean? That you as a teacher, you are also teaching as you are learning. That you need to listen to your students. In our methodology, we call it decolonized education. For the most part, when we remember very well, our teachers always talked at us. They were the master, we were the students. in Teach for Uganda, we ensure that our children are also teachers. Actually, we have a survey at the end of every term that we survey our children to tell us what is their perspective of their teachers. That is keeping their teachers accountable, because we believe that the children have so much to teach our teachers, because you will not know how a disabled child learns unless you are able to come to their level. If you just teach those who are able to put up your hands. We also break our children into circles, and they learn in circles, they learn in groups, they learn to solve problems. We also train our teachers to allow children to come to the, up to the board to be able to solve their own problems. That is where we teach creativity, problem solving, grit and empathy, because that's what we need in our countries today, that we need to develop these young people who are empathetic with others. So when they're in a group setting and they're working on a problem, for example, and their friend is left out, we ask this person who is always answering the question, can you allow your friend to also chip in? And if they are not understanding, what can you do in this group setting to help your friend who is not following to come and actually be able to follow? The number 3 thing that we do at Teach for Uganda that I want to share with you is we try to bring the world of work to the classroom. We've talked about creating an environment where children are nurtured so that when they go out of the world, they are able to work. Today we have, averagely, the World Bank says that in Uganda, it's about between 68 to 73% youth unemployment. We are thinking, why do we wait for you to go to a business school to learn how to work? Why do you wait to go to university to learn how to manage a team? So our job as young, innovative Ugandans, we train our teachers to ensure that all these things are brought into the classroom. In a simple thing, for example, in a mathematics lesson, you can bring children together to solve a problem. And there you can see a leader who comes out, I'm going to take the lead on doing this, and if I do it well, I'm going to explain it to my fellow classmates, right? And then the classmates are able to challenge him or her as you would be on a team, for example. And then from there, we are able to recognize natural leaders, those who are followers, and then be able to support them accordingly. And so the world of work also involves other extracurricular activities, for example. We encourage our teachers that at least every Friday, the students should come out of the classroom and enter the community. Someone mentioned about bridging the community and the school. Yes, it is very important because, for example, we have Ugandans here who do not understand what our fellow people in the communities go through. You ask children today in Uganda who live in the cities in high-end homes where your eggs may come from, they may tell you it comes from a store, comes from a store. So we try to bring children out of the classroom into the communities to understand that actually the role of education is to develop their communities and eventually their nation.